Let's go. A healthy balance at every position. If they brought in Derrick Henry, because the Ravens aren't serious. Derek DeCosta's make or break season, off season. Good evening, Flock. How are we doing post NFL draft and the Ravens? We're going to get all up in how these Ravens did this draft. I want to know from you. I'm going to share my thoughts. But not only that, we have a very special guest tonight with us in the building. And this special guest is going to not only share his thoughts on how the Ravens did in the draft, but he is from the enemy's camp. Yes, that's right. We went over to the enemy lines to grab ourselves a YouTuber who loves the Pittsburgh Steelers. So without further ado, let's bring him in.
Hey,
Good
how you doing?
evening, Kerby. Welcome to the channel. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming. I want to say a huge thank you to you for doing this collab with me. And I know that the Steelers-Ravens rivalry is a long one, and it is a one that runs deep. So we're going to talk and we're going to give our thoughts on how the Ravens did this draft and how the Steelers did this draft, because we as Ravens fans, we need to know what our enemies and what our opponents are doing. We need to be prepared before we go into these matchups, and vice versa. The Pittsburgh Steelers need to know what we're doing so that they can be prepared. We just want to be on the side of victory. But nevertheless, Kerby, would you introduce yourself and just tell everybody in the chat who you are and where they can find you?
Uh-oh. Can you see me? I'm sorry.
I can hear you
Okay.
and see you.
All right. Here we go. All right, so I'm kind of new to this. Just started the Black and Gold Standard podcast, and I'm a big Steelers fan. So, I'm here to take the abuse today. Nah, but I just think this is the best rivalry in the NFL. It probably died down a little bit, but I think really these two teams, regardless of what the record is, they come after each other. And I think part of that is because of the coaches. I mean, players change, but for the last at least 15 years or so, you had the same coaches there. So I think that's why this rivalry is really like it is.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. It's one that I think is a very popular one throughout the league, and one that is very much watched by NFL teams, coaches, players, fans from other teams, just because I think of the lengthy history between the two coaches who have longstanding tenures in their respective organizations. So, like Kerby said, he is new to YouTube. Like me, we are both relatively newbies here on YouTube. So his information to where you can find his channel on YouTube, as well as his channel or his X account, is in the description. So please, once you're done here, hop right on over, give him a follow, subscribe to his channel, show him some love from the flock. Before we begin, we're going to just say hello to everyone in the chat. We have Damon Watkins. Good evening. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for coming. We've got Brandon Bazel in the building tonight, always coming by and showing support. Thank you. Nisha C., good evening to you. I hope everything is good with you, Nisha. Big Reg, How are you tonight? Thank you. Thank you. We also have Hendo from the Rogue Pod with us tonight. Good evening, Hendo. Thank you for coming. Tim Hughes, how are you? Good to virtually see you. Glad you're here. And if I missed anyone, oh, I did, and I don't want to do that. Agent E is with us tonight. Thank you for coming, Agent E. Okay, we're going to show and see. We've got people already from the Ravens flock showing you some love, Kerby. Rogue Pod, Rogue
Hey,
Pod
how
is
you doing?
okay, so what I want to do tonight is really kind of because we have two teams that we're covering, and we're going to try to keep this as compact as possible because you all know at 9 o'clock Eastern time, you have to be heading over to Sip to Tally to catch the Ravens roundup. So we're not going to keep you the entire hour and a half, but we're going to try and succinct this. So what I want to do is as we go through, we'll start talking about how our teams performed, and you can let us know as we go through the draft picks whether you like it, whether you love it, or whether you hate it. So if you're watching on the replay, welcome. Thank you so much. Make sure that you leave a comment in the chat or and let us know how you feel the Ravens did this off, with the draft this year. And if you happen to have paid attention to how the Steelers did, because they had some, they had some needs going into the off season, and especially leading up to the draft. And we'll talk about how they did. So there we go. Jerry G, good evening. Welcome. Welcome. Good evening. Good evening. Hope you're well. So let's get started. First question I have. Did the Ravens have a successful draft? Start with pick 1. We'll start with their first round, pick 30. They take cornerback Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. 6'1", about 170-ish pounds, maybe 180, maybe. But he's a speedster. Ran a 4.28 in the 40 at the combine. Ravens are known to love themselves a speedster. So for me, this pick, okay, if we're going to just keep it 100, I was angry. I was really mad about this one because I said, do not, Ravens, do not go corner first round. But calmer heads prevail. And as I thought more about it, I said, all right, maybe this is a depth piece because we might be losing Marlon Humphrey after this season. Or, so maybe he's a stand-in. Maybe he's, someone to take Marlon Humphrey's place in a few years, or a year or two. Okay, for me, like it, love it, hate it. I'm trying to like it. Day one, when we picked him, I hated it. But now I'm starting to like it. I'm starting to like it. Don't love it, but I'm starting to like it. He's touted as being the best corner in the draft. We'll see. I just have concerns about his size. How will he stand? How will he match up against the other teams in the AFC? What do you think about? Do you know about Nate Wiggins, Kerby?
Well, like I say, I mean, he's a speedster. He can run, and if you watch his video, he has a lot of plays where guys breaking loose and they think they're gone, and he runs them down from way back, and most of the time, he catches with them so quick, he pops the ball out. But again, he's 170. I want to say he's like 173. And granted, he can get bigger over time, but I just think I don't know. Just the AFC Central. You're gonna play in the cold. It's gonna be bad news when he got to meet up with Najee Harris. I don't know, but I'm quite sure I can't even say they're gonna put him in the slot because he's just so light. But I just think they like that speed, and I can see him actually probably being he's probably gonna take over for Humphreys after this season. So I think in the long run, and they probably they want to get him bigger, get him stronger. But I think eventually, they're gonna want this kid to start.
Yeah, he's going to have to bulk up for sure.
Yeah.
He's going to have to bulk up for sure before they put him out there and send him into the Lions' den. Next pick, we had at round 2, second round at pick 62, we took right tackle from Washington, Roger Rosengarten. He's a he just looks massive. 6'5", 308 pounds, swing tackle. He was out there defending the likes of Michael Penix. And so this person, he's versatile. And he looks like he's just no nonsense. This is someone who I feel like is really going to protect our quarterback, which Kerby, as we talked about before, that was the utmost importance for me in this draft. If we had a successful draft, it looked like we shored up our O-line and we gave Lamar some weapons. And then, of course, we can sprinkle in a couple of defensive players. That, to me, would have been like the perfect setup. But this particular pick, I love it because it showed me that the Ravens understood that offensive line was a problem and it was an issue. So they're working on it, and I hope we're not done. And I'm a little, and we'll talk about the Steelers in a few minutes, but what you all did in the draft in terms of giving your quarterbacks the adequate talent that they need, building a wall around them, as well as equipping them with some weapons. So, Ravens, we're going to have to contend with this. Their roster just got better offensively. Ours arguably got a little bit better defensively, but we still need to be able to put points on the board at the end of the day. So, any thoughts on this particular pick?
Well, actually, he played on the other side of the Steelers' number one pick. He played right tackle, I want to say, because what's the kid's name? What is his name? Oh, Futano. He played the left side. So these guys are, they were bookend tackles in college. So it'll be a little rivalry between them. Well, they won't be on the field together, but I'm quite sure they'll have a little thing going on with each other. I think, at least with the Steelers, their offensive line just needed to be bulked up, and also they're kind of letting everybody know what they're going to do this year, and they're going to pound the ball. Once we get into their draft, the one thing that I noticed about every player that they took, they're all mean and they're nasty. So that's the attitude that they're trying to bring in. Because, like I say, they're going to be a running team. Like I'm seeing it right now. They're going to have 2,000-yard rushers this year.
Ooh.
So they're they want to be mean. And now you remember like back in the day how the Steelers Ravens games were, and I think that's about to move back towards that. And I heard like after some of them games, guys couldn't walk.
Ooh.
So
I don't know if we have the toughness in terms of that get in your face, like you said, after the game you can barely walk. I don't know that we have those players on our team. I don't know. So for this pick, like I said, I loved it. And, hopefully this can be one of the players that we drafted who can vie for a starting role and come in and have an instant impact, as opposed to being a depth piece and a potential starter in the future. Because I think, as fans, you want the instantaneous production. You want to know that you've drafted someone who's not just a prospect, right? Someone who can come out there immediately and perform. Jose is in the house. Hi, Jose. Thank you for joining. And since we're talking about offensive tackles, Jerry G said that he likes the offensive tackle that the Steelers picked up, and his Saints. He's a Saints fan, so welcome here. You're very welcome to hang out with us. Saints got the same thing. Okay, they're shoring up their O-line. All right, you got the Maui boys. We'll have to watch out for the Saints. I'll put them on my radar as well. B. James is here. Hi, B. James. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I don't think our coaches, mainly our head coach GM, pick those types of players. I don't think so. I agree with you, B. James. Hearing you, Kerby, and hearing how the Steelers are kind of like bringing in those hard-nosed players who are just, unstoppable and have a certain je ne sais quoi or grit about them. I don't know that the Ravens kind of have that overall. So moving on to the third round, pick 93. At 93, the Ravens selected Penn State edge rusher, Adisa Isaac. Now, this one bothered me a bit because I just felt like the Ravens had more issues than edge rusher. If we found an edge rusher somewhere later on in the draft, that would be okay, but certainly not right away. Certainly not at pick 93. I would have liked to see us go a different direction, but that wasn't the case. With Adisa, I didn't really know a ton about him, admittedly, so I'm not going to spend too much time here. I do know that he's 6'4", 247. He's got, according to Big Reg, he put out a short. Make sure you head over to Big Reg's channel and hit subscribe. And we also have the Rogue Pod here. Make sure you head over to his channel and hit subscribe as well. Excellent content from both of the YouTubers. And Jose is one half of Lunch Break Hot Take. He and his brother do a podcast and a live show every week. Please go over and subscribe to their channels as well. But Big Reg mentioned that this edge rusher, Isaac, had only one bull rush move. That's all he has in his arsenal. Starter. This is not someone that to start immediately. And I think that for me, the question is, David Ojabo is not ready when we all hope he is. We all, as fans, as Ravens fans, hope that David Ojabo is actually ready to go game one. But what if he's not? Then do we just call up Adisa Isaac and hope and pray that he's going to pan out for us? So with this pick, I'm going to say I'm going to try to like it. I understand needing depth at edge, so I'm going to try to like it for that reason. So have you heard about Adisa Isaac?
I watched him play. A few times. But the only thing is, like, I watched Penn State against Ohio State. I watched him against Michigan, and it just seemed like just the whole team nobody never stood out. So I'm not going to really judge and say what type of player he is, because those were the only games I watched. But I didn't see anything special about him. But again, like, I'm not going to say that he's not a good player. I'm quite sure. Penn State had a decent year, but I just when they played the two best teams on their schedule, he didn't stand out. But
yeah, I mean, he had 7.5 sacks and 16 tackles for loss last year. And what I hear about him is that his length, his energy, and he's very athletic. Those are some of his strengths. But the overall consensus is that he's a work in progress.
Yeah.
This is not someone who we can expect to see on the field unless there is a reason for him to be, obviously an injury or setback. Other than that, so with this one, I'm trying to like it, and I'm starting to convince myself that go ahead and like it, Yolanda. It's not that bad. Fourth round, we pick 113. We take wide receiver out of Carolina, Devontae Walker. This one made me extremely excited. I was very happy. One of the things that I've been clamoring for as a Ravens fan is I feel like Lamar Jackson needs a big body wide receiver. Now, while I would certainly like to have a big body wide receiver who is proven, not a rookie, but a proven talent, i.e. a DK Metcalf, a Deebo Samuel, someone who can go up and get those 50-50 balls and make those contested catches. That's what I would have liked to see, but we didn't address it in the offseason, right? So we get to draft time and we pick a wide receiver who is 6'1", and he's also a speedster. I think he's at 4.36 at the combine. And this Ravens first round pick, Nate Wiggins, allowed 20 yards, in completion, and that was to Devontae Walker. So he gives Nate Wiggins a run for his money, and that's saying a lot, especially because, like I mentioned, Nate is supposed to be, or is claimed to be, the best corner in the draft. And so if Devontae Walker is out there making Nate Wiggins have to work for it and earn it. That's saying a lot. I'm excited about this pick. I love it. This is one that I will say I love. And I think this is going to be our big body wide receiver unless the Ravens go out there and somehow get Debo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. What are your thoughts about Devontae?
This pick here irritated me. And
Uh-oh.
the only reason I said that because if you look at my last mock, I actually mocked him going to the Steelers.
Oh,
I would look at his story. It's a story behind it. This kid, I like his character. He long story short, coming out of high school, he had signed to go to East Carolina. And I think he was out on the football field with some of his friends, just playing catch and blew his knee out. So he blew his knee out. He lost the scholarship. And the kid went and got a job. And he did rehab, so this is him out of, he has no college, anything. So I want to say he got with one of his coaches and they got him, to a place where he could rehab, got his knee back together. He went to Kent State, played a year. Then after that, he's real close to his grandmother, and his grandmother's bedridden. And so he wanted to come back to Carolina. So he comes back to North Carolina Central. Then COVID came, and they canceled football. So he had to miss for that. So then he transferred to North Carolina, and the NCAA had ruled him ineligible. And it's like I say, it's on YouTube actually, and they did a big story on him. I mean, he's a kid with a lot of character. His grandmom is his world,
yeah.
and I like him. And actually, it was crazy. I have a friend that coached at North Carolina, so we was down there for the first game that he was eligible to play in, and I just took a liking to the kid, and I was like, this is a guy that's real motivated right now, and I think you got a good one there.
I
I
agree.
think they got a good one there, but
I agree.
definitely check his story out.
Okay. Do that. I will certainly do that and Block encourage you to do the same just to get to know our players a little bit more. So it seems like he has a touching story to offer. So I'm looking forward to watching that. Be the change you wish to see. Good evening. Ravens have an outdated team building philosophy that's holding back the potential. Ooh, that's a hot take right there. That is a
Mm.
hot take. I absolutely agree with you. I do. I think we need to have a mindset shift and in terms of our leadership to be more aggressive and to not allow players to slip by and to just be in talks with players or we tried to sign or we were interested in. We need to be aggressive, and I think that's a very good point. Brandon, aka Arkansas 501, good evening to you. They need to go and trade Ronnie Stanley. And Ronnie Stanley, if you don't know, Kerby, that's our starting left
Yeah,
tackle who I'm sure in the AFC North, I'm sure you know,
yeah,
he's just been a roller coaster ride for us the last few seasons, ever since his injury. It's just been
yeah. His
fingers crossed. Is he going to play? Is his, his knee going to hold up or ankle going to hold up? We don't know. We think so. It's just been one of those things. So some of the fans, some of the Ravens fans think that we need to kind of part ways, right, and go and find a replacement for him. But Jose said, and Jose again is one half of Lunch Break Hot Take. In one of his streams, he said, replacing a tackle, a left tackle at that, a premium left tackle, all pro left tackle. Where are you going to find one? They're not that, they don't fall on trees. So that's a tall order. So for now, Kerby, I think we might be, I don't want to say stuck with Ronnie, but I don't think we're parting ways with him right now. I want a draft pick. I do not want to wait for the next 2 years for the draft pick, for a draft pick for Ronnie Stanley. I don't know that we're going to get that. That's
no,
wishful.
His value is
Yeah, because his value is not there.
yeah, is no value there.
It's little value because he hasn't
Yeah,
played consistently,
yeah.
and we haven't seen the Ronnie of old. Good evening, Holy Bro. I hope you're doing well. We have Tanja with us. Tanja, thank you for coming. Yes, Mod Tanja in the building tonight. Thank you for joining. And agreed, Holy Bro. Ravens should have traded up. I would have loved to have seen that from the Ravens. We should have traded up. That would have been great. We didn't. So with this particular pick at pick 113, I think from what I'm reading or what I'm hearing about Devontae Walker, this was a solid pick for us. And the fact that we have a Steelers fan in the building that says he wanted him, he mocked him
Yeah, I
too,
did.
that says a lot. So this was a good one for the Ravens. Next, we had in the fourth round, pick 130, we took Iowa State cornerback TJ Tampa. Now, why did we take a second cornerback? That frustrated me. That really did. Fine, I was starting to try to get over the fact that we went corner first round. I really was. But then the next thing we did is we took a corner fourth round when I felt as though we still needed to address that O line. For the same reasons that people have said in the chat, Brandon, aka Arkansas 501, we need to figure out what we're going to do at left tackle. Should Ronnie not be able to produce for us? I don't want us to continue to solely rely on that. So we took cornerback TJ Tampa. And fun fact, he is from St. Petersburg, Florida, which is right outside of Tampa. So I thought that was cute. He's 6'1", 189 pounds, and he's considered to also be a steal in this draft. He's hailed as right up there along the ranks of a Nate Wiggins. So we'll see. What this means for the Ravens, I don't know. Personally, I think it means see you later, Jalen Armour-Davis. See you later, Pepe Williams. These are two defensive backs who've not really produced anything for us since we drafted them a few years ago. So that's what I think this means. This means like the Ravens look at these, the current roster and say, well, for the future, we need to have, CJ Tampa. His weakness. Now, one thing I did read in terms of weakness was that he gets lost defending great routes. And we all know in the AFC North, we have some excellent route runners. In the AFC Conference, excellent route runners. So that's going to be something that our coaching staff is going to have to figure out to develop that, how to maximize the talent for him. Did you have any thought? Oh, so for me, I did not think about this pick as one that I love. I didn't even really like it when it happened, but I'm starting to like it now. Like I can see the vision, even though I had my heart and my mind set on Lamar Jackson for this draft. Ravens went a different direction, so I'm going to actually start to like this pick. Anything, Kerby, on this one?
It was that was a value pick. I want to say some people had him mocked to go late in the first, early in the second round, but I think the problem with him was his speed. He didn't run at his pro day. I think his 40 was not good. So I think that's what knocked him down. But he was mocked to definitely go pretty high. So I think at that point, it was just a value pick, and he got the size. Now he's a corner that that you would want, but other than that speed, not a bad pick. But like I say, that was a value pick. They probably looked at that and said, "Hey, we're getting a late first to an early second round talent, at this point in the draft." So I think that's what that probably was.
Okay, I can agree with that. I can agree. Some of his strengths are, he's tall with above average arm length, and he's very physical in coverage. He's very sticky. This is a sticky cornerback who's not letting you get away.
Right.
But like you mentioned, speed for him might be a concern. So they'll have to work on it with him and figure out how to best utilize him. So next we took in the fifth round, we took Marshall, a running back from Marshall, Rasheen Ali. 5'11", 206. He had 42 career touchdowns, 28, 31 rushing yards over 4 years of college. He's nice. He has nice speed. I think he's a good depth piece, and something that I considered when we drafted him. I was like, okay, we have for me, there's always the hope that Derrick Henry is going to come in and have an amazing, phenomenal season alongside Lamar Jackson. But we have to also be realistic. He's older now. And what if we need a rotational piece? Will Rasheen Ali be able to come in and have an instant impact? I don't think so. But he'll certainly be there for, like I mentioned, I think this is a depth piece. So I'm going to say I like it. I like it. It's another weapon for Lamar, potentially, but not right away. I do want to say hello to a couple of other people who joined. We have Black Daniels. Good evening to you. Glad you're here. Ravens draft philosophy is outdated. I can't even argue the point with you. You're absolutely right. The Ravens and how they enter into a draft, the philosophy. I think we invest so heavily on our defense. And I understand how important defense is. And you have to have a good defense to withstand, obviously, the AFC, but even beyond. But I said it before, I'm going to say it again. I'll probably say it 1,000 more times. You have to be able to score points in this league. You have to. We, as Ravens fans, Kerby, know that all too well, i.e., the AFC Championship a few months back. You have to be able to score points. So, we'll see how the Ravens are able to utilize this particular weapon for Lamar. Good evening, Chris Waz. Thank you for coming. And Holy Bro said the Ravens they needed another running back, and who will be better than JK? I mean, JK, I thought he was great. It just had the injuries and just couldn't stay healthy. Just, right. Had an issue with staying healthy. Adam Whittington, good evening to you. I think the undrafted players we signed looked like they have promise. We'll talk about that shortly. So I'm going to breeze through these next couple of picks because we put in the 6th round, we took quarterback Devin Leary. This one had me scratching my head. I think I'm still kind of scratching my head, but nevertheless, I move on. This one I did not like. Also, round 7, we took Nick Samick. I hope I'm pronouncing the gentleman's name right, from a center from Michigan. Again, I just started to see, I wondered what direction are we going in, Ravens, at the time that these draft picks were coming in. I said, well, what are we doing? What direction are we going in? And I'm thinking this is probably not anyone that we're going to look to for contribution right away. These pieces that we're adding are solely for depth and for the future. They're not for now. Last, we had safety. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this gentleman's first name. Last name is Kane from Purdue. He's not that good. He allowed almost 10 targets. This one is another project I saw. So from 6th round on, it was just kind of, I don't like it. I really don't, but we're going to see. We're going to see. Team with the most points wins, period. Black Daniels, couldn't have said it better myself. Absolutely. I'm going to go and I have a question for everyone in the chat. And if you're watching on replay, please leave a comment and let us know who was the player that got away. In your mind, what is one player that we did not draft that you just wish, I think if we would have drafted this one player, I would have been happy. For me, it would have been not necessarily a player. I would have wanted one more tackle. For me, it would have been a position. Troy, how do you pronounce his last name, Kerby? Fontaine?
Fontano.
Fontano.
Yeah.
I'm botching his name all up. Yeah. I would have liked to see him. Bring in Troy. That would have been it for me. I'd have been really pleased with that, but we didn't. So he's the one for me who got away. Left tackle, Washington. Obviously, we all know he went over to the Steelers camp, and we'll hear from Kerby on his thoughts about it in a minute. I want to say good evening to Nana. I see her in the chat. Thank you for joining. She's saying that she's agreeing with Brandon. He's absolutely right. Marlon Humphrey, he got to go. Everybody beats him out there. Listen, that may be the reason why the Ravens went 2 corners. That very well may be what they're thinking. Like, okay, this is kind of it. This is kind of it for Marlon. This is his last go round. This is last lap. Okay, we got the Ravens. Put in the chat your grade, your overall grade for this draft. And then we will move on to hear from Kerby on how the Steelers did in their draft. I give this draft for the Ravens, I'm going to give them I teeter between a B- to a C+. B-, C+ for me. And yeah, James is saying he agrees. He would have liked a tackle as well. Yeah, that would have been icing on the cake. Damon Watkins gives the draft for the Ravens an A-. Ooh, Damon. Wait, okay. He said, okay, he thought more about it. Okay, I was just about to ask you, Damon, how do we get to an A? Okay, B+. All right, I'm not too far off. I give him a B-, teetering on a C+. So for the first 5 picks, I give him a B+, and then the last ones I give him, I don't know. Kerby, that brings us to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, here we go.
The interviews. Cam, how did you all do? And before we get into that, I just want to say, this still hurts. Patrick Queen over to the Steelers. You guys got a good one. Please take care of him. Yeah. You guys got Patrick Queen. And as you see right here on the screen, yes, for me, that one still hurts. It stings a bit, but you guys got a good one. You got a great defensive player who's going to give it his all. And a couple more comments, and then we're going to move on. So Brandon said he would have liked Xavier Legette. Yeah, he was another one I would have wanted. And most of you all know I'm a University of Florida. I'm a Gators fan. So the wide receiver out of Florida, he didn't come to us. I think he went over to the 49ers. I could have taken it. And Nana gives the Ravens an A-. Okay. So let us know, Kerby. Tell us, do you think the Steelers had a successful draft? And you can go through your draft picks. And
the Steelers had a great draft. And I'm not saying that to be biased. They had a A+. And the thing that kind of amazed me is I was kind of looking for him to move down. But as I was watching the draft, and I think one of the biggest things that helped him was all these quarterbacks were taken. So when these quarterbacks was taken, I'm watching it. I'm like, man, these linemen are slipping. And, I was like, because actually in my last mock, the computer system that I used, the kid that they took was available. So I took him, but I was like, this is kind of not realistic because he won't be there at 20. So to get Troy Futano at 20 was amazing. I mean, this kid he's athletic. I don't know how they was letting him play. I've never seen an offensive lineman play with shorts. I mean, he had football pants on, but no knee pads. I mean, he's a mean, rugged guy. During the draft, I guess Cam Hayward had a podcast that he was doing with all the guys that was drafted. And so he asked him, just tell me one thing that we'll love about you. And the first thing that came out of his mouth is he liked hitting people in the face. So this is a mean, he's going to bring that aggressiveness. He's been a Steeler fan all his life. So this is like a perfect situation for him. So that first pick was huge. So in the second round, they were able to get a center because they don't have a center. So Zach Frazier, which it was kind of with the centers, they were kind of going back and forth of who was the top guy. Now Zach, he played at West Virginia. The last game of the year, he broke his leg, so
Mm,
that kind of dropped his stock a little bit. But this is another kid that he lived in Fairmont, West Virginia, which I think is only like 50, 60 miles from Pittsburgh. He said when
mhm.
he got drafted, he said he hopped in his pickup truck and drove over. So just the theme of what they're doing, they're getting guys that want to be there. Well, obviously anybody to get drafted want to be. They always say that, but these are guys that's been Steeler fans all their life, and it's just the type players that they're bringing in. They're bringing in mean, grimy guys that that's ready to get this tradition going back. Because I mean, for the last few years, Pittsburgh been kind of not doing too well, especially on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
So
Uh, okay. So, out of who did you all take? Who was your next pick after?
our next pick was Roman Wilson. Now this kid, wide receiver out of Michigan. So if you know anything about Michigan, for you to wear the number one jersey, you have to be special. Not big. He's only like 5'10", 180 pounds. Like I said, he's probably going to be more of a slot. But I think one of the things they like about him, he's everything that Deontay Johnson wasn't. And not trying to kick a guy while he's out the door. This kid is going to be willing to block. He's going to be, he's going to give you his all. Like again, he's another guy. If you watch the film, they're running the ball away from him, and he's over there on the other side. Matter of fact, it was against when they played Alabama against Kool-Aid McCaffrey. He's all up in this guy, and
Huh.
so he again he's bringing another kid that's bringing that attitude. And so now he's going to bring it over and put it out there in the receiver because, like I say, with Johnson, that's the main reason that he's not there because
Yeah.
didn't want to block, don't want to catch, just I don't know what was going on with him, but so that again that's going to be a kid. Like I said, he's probably going to be more of a slot. So I still think the Steelers are probably in the market. I wouldn't be shocked if at some point they make a trade for Cortland Sutton. What's the guy
Portland Sutton.
name?
Sutton.
Yeah, I don't think the Ayuk and Debo. I think Pittsburgh is out on that because they don't want to. That's going to be hard to pay those guys, and then you got George Pickens that's going to be up next year.
That's right.
So they
Mm.
they're not going to do that. So I think the Steelers are out on those guys.
I mean, that's not saying too much about the Ravens because I think what are we around 7 million in cap space right now? Brandon Ayuk, is he going to say yes, 7 million? I'll take it. I
Oh
mean,
no,
so
no.
right, right.
But with that cap, they can work it if they was to make a trade and they could find the money.
They
But
can
it's just I mean Ayuk gonna cost almost $100 million.
He is. He certainly
You
is.
know,
So the team is going to have to pay it. And
yeah,
Tanya says she wanted us to get Cortland Sutton. She's talking to our
yeah,
general EDC. Come on, get up, do
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Go
I
get it. That
I
might be a
think
more realistic pick. Well, not pick, but that might be a more realistic option
and
financially for the
and
Ravens.
I think that's gonna be a something that Russell Wilson is gonna push since they played with each other. And from what I
Of
was
course.
hearing, they had a good relationship. So I think that's something that he's gonna push. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him in Pittsburgh here shortly.
Okay, Ravens flock. How we feeling about that? How we feeling about Cortland Sutton over in the Steelers? I wanted him too. I wouldn't have minded Cortland Sutton. I wouldn't mind that, but you know, Black Daniel says we can find money to get him in the door, but after that, 30 million a year, ugh,
Yes, it's tough.
that's a lot. That's a lot of money.
All right,
But
so we had another third round pick, and we
okay,
took Peyton Wilson. And this is another guy, now they got 3 Wilsons on the team. I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, this kid here, he won the Buckets Award. So the Buckets Award is given to the best linebacker in college. And watch the highlights of this kid. Now, he kind of dropped because he has some medical issues as far as he got red flag. One of his knees, and I didn't even know this was possible. One of his knees, he don't have an ACL. So I was kind of like, well, I guess they don't have to worry about him getting an ACL. But this kid, if you watch this video, he's a tackling machine. I mean, the one thing I like about him is when you put him and Queen together. I think now, but Queen is going to be more of the Smith role, and he's going to be more of the Queen role. But I don't know if he's going to start this year. He's probably going to play a lot of special teams. But this kid he's a tackling machine, and he
Okay.
can run. He can run. I mean, I watched one video. I don't know if it was against Florida State or Notre Dame, and you gotta watch it. I mean, he runs this guy down. He ran in 4.4. So that's again the same theme. They're bringing in nasty guys that just want to, they're going to be nasty this year. It's going to be back to how it used to be now. I mean, they're not on the James Harrison level, but they're going to be much more physical.
The fact that the Steelers have added those physical, hard-nosed players to their roster, when I said this before in a previous stream, to me, the Pittsburgh Steelers were just a quarterback away prior to this offseason. The Pittsburgh Steelers were just a quarterback away from being a really, really serious contender. Now you have gone and added Russell Wilson. Oh, wait, the Steelers didn't stop there. Just in case it doesn't quite pan out with, Russell, because he is a little older now, but we're hoping, obviously Steelers fans are hoping that it does pan out with him. But if it doesn't, the Steelers said, we're going to go out and get Justin Fields, who I think has an amazing, amazing talent at quarterback, just needs to be in the right situation, the right opportunity for him. And now that the Steelers have added two, I think, very good great quarterbacks. So, yeah, Tanja, quarterback has to show up. We'll see. We will. We'll see what Russell does this year. We'll see if it pans out for him. But if not, they said they weren't sitting idly by. They said, let's go and get a backup. Let's go get a good backup, Justin Fields. So they've got some options. Yes, please do what Nisha C said. If you are here, we thank you for hanging out with us and joining us in this stream. Make sure you hit the like button. And if you're new, welcome. Please consider hitting subscribe. We'd love you to join the family. All right. Who was your next pick?
The next guy in the 4th round was Mason McCormick. He's an offensive guard out of South Dakota. Again, big, mean, nasty guy. Probably won't play this year. They're probably going to use him more. James Daniels, they're starting right guard. He'll be a free agent next year. So if McCormick develops, I can see him sliding in there and taking that spot. But shouldn't get too much from him this year. I think he's stepping up in competition here a little bit. Because like I say, he played at South Dakota. But again, like I say, they kept that same theme of just bringing in big, mean, nasty guys, physical guys. But like I say, I don't really expect to see him on the field too much this year. But moving forward, I could see, Daniels probably They're probably letting him walk and plugging him in there because the thing the Steelers have to kind of keep track of is like right this year they're not paying their quarterbacks. I mean they with I think Fields and Russell Wilson is maybe $5 million for both of them.
Wow, that's
So
a
so
steal.
so but going into next year, they're gonna have to pay both of those guys. You got Najee here, so they're probably gonna pick up Najee's option, but I'm thinking they probably want to sign him long term. And
Hmm.
you got Pickens coming up, so
We'll take
you know.
Pickens. We'll
Oh
take him.
no,
We don't
they
Ravens. We don't mind taking Pickens off your hand. We'll be glad to
nah
have you.
he
We
nah
appreciate
they
you.
nah they like him a lot. I mean, even though he had his little problems, but sometimes you can kind of tolerate that when your production is there.
Yeah, and I think
So
your quarterback. I mean, I think your head coach is just the coach for him, for George
yeah,
Pickens. Yeah, I think
yeah.
that's a good fit. Black Daniel says he has great admiration for the Pittsburgh scouting and the front office at large. They have an
Mm-hmm.
uncanny way of finding players that fit their system. Rarely, if ever,
Mm-hmm.
do they miss. He thinks it's fascinating. Thank you for that,
Mm-hmm.
Black Daniels. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this pick right here that you just mentioned, likely a depth piece for now, but
Yeah, yeah, it's
an
probably just
investment
a
for
death
the
piece.
future, an
Yeah,
O-line investment for the
yeah.
future. Okay, who's
And
next?
and then and then honestly, they last two picks. Well, they took a defensive tackle out of Iowa, Logan Lee. Again, I mean, he may. I don't know if he's gonna make the team or not. But again, he's just a depth piece. He's a guy that maybe he'll make it. I don't know. I just think they'll see what he can do in camp, but I don't really see him making the team. I mean, he probably will be a practice squad type player. And then
Okay.
their last pick was Ryan Watts, a big corner out of Texas. This kid is like 6'3",
Hmm.
208.
Wow.
I think they're actually gonna move him to safety. Um, he's kind of stiff. When the film I watch, he's not a NFL corner, but with his size, they probably move him to safety and give him a shot there. But again, this is another person that's he's just a deaf piece at most.
Understood. Understood. So, what overall grade do you give the Pittsburgh Steelers for their draft? Knowing
I
what your needs were going into the draft, how you addressed them in the draft, what grade do you give
hmm.
them?
Well, I'm giving them an A. And the reason that, like I said, I'm giving them an A is really their first two picks were definitely players that they needed to have because I mean they if these guys perform, they're going to start as rookies. I mean they're going to
Mm,
be in there day one.
okay.
And then the next two guys are going to play. I mean, and not just these guys are going to have major roles. Don't think they'll be starters, but they're going to have major roles. So I, I gave them an A, just like I say, because for one thing, they got a player that shouldn't have never been there, and the only thing we'll thank the Atlanta Falcons, for what they did and kind of started that quarterback run, and that kind of dropped, that dropped some guys right in our lap, but so they 2 years in a row they kind of nailed the draft, so
They
we'll
did.
see.
I can't argue the point there. I think that if I were to give the grade, the draft for the Steelers a grade, I'd give them a solid B plus.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed to me that the Steelers had a strategy and had a plan. They knew
Mm-hmm.
exactly what they needed, not what they wanted necessarily, but what they needed. They addressed
Mm-hmm.
the need and they didn't stop there. They invested for the future. So I think that's good. And Hendo from the Road Pod says a couple of years ago the Steelers line was a problem. Now
Yeah.
it would appear to be your strength. I will say that your secondary still seems a little, but
Yeah.
you
They
can't
they
way around.
they need a second corner. I heard something today. Maybe Stephon Gilmore. But I don't know. He's kind of long in the tooth a little bit. But they need to find another corner somewhere. But at this point, it's really nobody out there. So I don't know what they're gonna do there. But I like the fact that with some of the players they have now, Mika can finally move back into his position of really being that free roaming corner. I mean safety, in which is going to be huge for him. Because I want to say I don't even think Mika had an interception last year, but they kind of had to play him a little bit of all over the place. So now they can kind of move him back to where he belongs. So
Okay.
that 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 should be good. And we actually got another ex-Raven, um, the other safety, Elliott. I think he played for
Sean
the
Elliott, I
yeah
did. I forgot
yeah.
about him.
So
He came from the Miami Dolphins over to
yep.
you. Yes.
So he'll
Still
start it.
have
Yeah
Ravens former, still have Ravens
yeah
players.
yeah. He
Take
gonna
out.
start at strong safety this year.
Well, since you guys
So
got Patrick Queen, we'll gladly, as I said before, we'll gladly take George Pickens off your hands. It'll just be like an even
right.
exchange, Patrick Queen, and we'll just take George
Yeah.
Pickens.
And
What's one player?
unless he have another major blow up, nah, they're not gonna let that kid go.
I know. I'm just talking. That's wishful thinking. Who was the one player for you that got away?
Wow, two guys. Um, well, this one I wouldn't say got away. He got drafted earlier than I thought. I wanted Leggett. I love that kid. And the reason I wanted him because he reminded me of AJ Brown, which the offensive coordinator that the Steelers have now had him in Tennessee, and I seen Leggett kind of being in that same role. So I guess you could say he got away. I think Carolina actually took him in the first round, which I was kind of shocked. But I think the player that got away was probably Walker. Like I say, I wanted him. I have high hopes for that kid. Um, I think he's going to be solid, a solid NFL player. And when I seen the Ravens took him out, I was like, ah. So yeah, I'm gonna say Walker. And again, just watch his story. If you watch his story, you're gonna have way more respect for him, and you're gonna be rooting hard for him.
Will do. We're certainly going to be rooting hard for him because we need that deep, deep ball threat for Lamar. We need that. So thank you, Tar
Yeah,
Heels for life. He says, as a UNC fan, we're going to love, not
yeah,
like, we're going to love Tez Walker. I think we will.
yep.
I do. I do. Well, I just want
Mhm.
to, now that we are done, we've given you kind of like our rundown of what we think the Ravens and the Steelers, how they fared in this draft. We're going to open it up now to questions and answers, Q&A. If you have a question for either myself or Kerby with respect to either team, let us know. If you have anything that you just really want one of us to answer, uh, go ahead and leave a comment in the chat. And if you're watching this on replay, leave a comment down below and let us know. We'll make sure we answer it. So, and if not, we'll give it a couple more seconds. But if not, you got to type fast. You gotta move really quickly. Tar Heels for life. He said, my Panthers took him. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, Tanja says, oh, he likes Tez Walker. I'm glad to hear that. Yes, Tanja, I don't know if you were in here earlier, but Kerby was mentioning that he really wanted
Yeah.
Walker. That was the
Yeah.
one that he even did a mock draft on his channel. And right before the draft, or his last mock draft before the actual, last week, he said he was hoping that Tez Walker would go to the Steelers, but he did not. He did not. So I see we have a question in here from Brandon, aka Arkansas 501. He wants to know, why did John Harbaugh draft anybody from his brother's college team? John Harbaugh is very funny. Good question. I don't know. I just know that all of the Ravens players, they decided they're either going over to the Steelers. I'm still mad at Stone for going to the Bengals. Now that one bothers me just about as much as the Patrick Queen to the Steelers, but the Geno Stone to the Bengals really annoys me. But yeah, I don't know why John Harbaugh, draft anybody from his brother's team. I don't know. I don't know why did he draft? Great question. Good question. We don't know what John Harbaugh, what goes through his mind sometimes. Quarterback we got from Cincinnati. We may win the backup spot. Okay, may win the backup spot. Okay, we'll see. We have Jay the Six in the house tonight. How come the Steelers prioritize the O-line and the Ravens still said defense is the way? Ooh, Jay the Six comes in kicking up sand and just bringing the fire with them. That's an amazing question, Jay. I just think it boils down to philosophy. It boils down to mentality. And this is the Ravens' priority, defense. We've seen it. It's no secret. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they knew that they had an offensive line issue. They fixed it largely. Maybe not, totally complete in terms of starters and depth pieces. There's still some time in the offseason. But primarily, the Steelers' mindset was one that is consistent with, you've got to have a good defense, yes, but you must have an awesome offense. And to win in football, it starts in the trenches. So that's what I think. That would be my answer. What about you, Kerby?
Yeah, like I say, that was just their weakness, and they needed to get that done. And like I say, probably the last 3 years, the Steelers had no offense. I mean, this is amazing. Russell Wilson and I just laugh at people. When they say, "Well, is he washed up or don't know what he's going?" He threw 26 touchdowns last year against 8 interceptions. The Steelers haven't thrown 26 touchdowns in the last 2 years. So I mean, just think about that.
Your quarterback was the issue.
Right.
Largely, he was a large part of the issue. B. James has a question for you, Kerby. He's never asked a Steelers fan this before, but how did you feel about your coach jumping in front of Jacoby Jones?
Oh, you know what? If you go to the Pivot podcast, they did an interview. They did an interview with him, and that question came up. So this is the Mike Tomlin excuse. He said when the play happened, because I guess in Baltimore y'all got the big jumbotron. So he said he was looking at the jumbotron, but he said you got to remember it's backwards, from in the stadium. So he said he was looking at that, and he said when he looked up and looked at the jumbotron, he seen the guy coming, and he tried to get out the way, but
yeah.
I don't know. He said it cost him $100,000. So he said, believe me, I didn't do it on purpose.
Okay. $100,000 later. We're going to take this last question, and we're going to get out of here so you all can go grab a snack, a beverage of choice before the Ravens roundup tonight. Adam Whittington would like to know, Kerby, who are you all putting next to Queen? That's an excellent question, Adam. Yeah, who
Landon Roberts. He started last year, so he'll start off because he's kind of more of the thumper type. He'll be there for the run. Not really great in coverage, but he'll start off. But like I say, this Peyton Wilson kid, I mean, he's gonna have a fight on this hand to keep that position. But I would say right now, Landon Roberts would be on the side of Queen.
Okay. Well, family, thank you for joining us and staying with us for this last hour and some change. We appreciate you all for coming by. Please make sure that you head over to Kerby's channel. Links are in the description. Give him a follow. Subscribe to his channel. Yes, he is one of our rivals, but in knowing that the Steelers have Patrick Queen now, and like you mentioned, what's the guy you just mentioned from Deshaun Elliott?
Yeah, Deshaun Elliott.
So since we have former Ravens players who are now Pittsburgh Steelers, we got to keep our eyes on them. Now we hope
Mhm.
they're successful, just not when they play the Ravens. But at any rate, thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate it. And Kerby, a huge thank you to you for doing this collab with me.
Oh,
I
no
had a lot
problem.
of fun and I hope you will come back
Oh
and we
yeah.
can chop it up again closer to the start of the season or even during the season before the Ravens play the Steelers or after they play the Steelers. We can talk about how we think our matchups will be.
Okay. So we
All
should have
right.
the schedule should be coming out here in probably in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So
Oh,
we'll
yes. Yeah, it should be coming out really soon.
Yep.
Even though you're a Lions fan, well, we welcome you to the stream. Let me tell you something about those Lions. Those are not those Lions are not the Lions they used to be. They are doing things. And
Yeah.
I was
They are.
very impressed with the Lions last season. So they're a team that you cannot sleep on. We're watching. We're watching. We're paying attention to the Lions too. So
Mhm.
thank you all so much for joining. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it, and we will see you all very soon. Until next time, you all stay safe. And as always, never ever forget, go Ravens. And I'm sure Kerby wants to tell his Steeler fans.
Hey, go Steelers.
All right, that's it. We'll see you guys
Okay.
soon.
All right. All
Take
right. Take care. All right. Bye bye.
care. Bye.